The Falun Gong Protection Act would require the U.S. to sanction any individual involved in or facilitating the Chinese regime's forced organ harvesting of its own people. Now, this means visas revoked and property transactions in the U.S. also revoked. It would also require the U.S. to form a policy to avoid cooperation with China in the organ transplant field. Now, this bill passed the House on a voice vote. It was led by Congressman Scott Perry. It's a bipartisan bill. Here are his comments on the House floor.
This bill is the first binding commitment by Congress to take strong legal action against the persecution and forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong, making Falun Gong the centerpiece of legislation, an action long overdue after 25 years.
Two, we are sending a clear message that the United States will sanction those who knowingly and directly engaged in or facilitated the involuntary harvesting of organs within the People's Republic of China. This legislation sheds light on and condemns this horrific practice and holds to account those responsible.
Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a spiritual practice based on truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. And in China in 1999, the practice grew to have 100 million followers. That's when the Chinese regime launched its brutal persecution of the practice, imprisoning, torturing, and killing these practitioners for their organs. And this persecution still goes on today. I spoke with Congressman Rich McCormick about the persecution of these practitioners and the harvesting of their organs. Take a look.
When I was in medical school, they had an exhibition called Bodies. You may remember. Phenomenal display. A lot of them young people. We're trying to figure out what happened to these bodies. They're not damaged. They don't have cancer, but they're now bodies displayed. So we always had suspicions. Of course, no evidence. But yeah, anybody who has forced organ donations or forced donation of anything with your body, that's pretty egregious as far as human rights violations. So anything that would punish that sort of behavior is okay by me.
I also spoke with Congressman Ralph Norman about the persecution of these Falun Gong practitioners and the continued human rights abuses that still go on, committed by the Chinese regime.
This is a tragedy of what our youth are facing with the drugs, but with the organ harvesting, it's intolerable. Well, freedom is not free. We're realizing that now. We've got to fight for it, and just as the Chinese people are good people, but they're under a regime that's suppressing. It tells you that America has got to wake up to stopping a communist regime that's intent on taking over America at every level.
This comes after the State Department released its 2024 Trafficking in Persons report, which cited concerns over the Chinese regime's forced organ harvesting. The Falun Gong Protection Act will now head to the Senate floor for a future vote. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.